from within. BFF, we rise above, stronger together, we shine with love. Faith unshaken, hearts on fire, fearless souls, we're reaching high.
Hello, guys, and welcome back to the BFF Empowerment Podcast. I am your host, Blaque Diamond, and I hope you guys have been having a great week so far. I hope you have been having a good day, and hope everyone has been being kind to you. So, before we jump into our weekly episode, let's do our midweek check in.
What's going on? What's happening? Time for the midweek check-in. What's going on? What's happening? Time for the midweek check-in.
All right, guys. So, what have I been up to since we last spoke? So, as some of you know, I was a contestant in the 2025 Miss Blind Diva Empowerment Pageant. So that took place this past weekend, October 4th. So although I did not win the ultimate title of Miss Blind Diva, I was crowned Miss Altruistic, which definitely fits me and who I am and everything that I do with all of my community service, my women's empowerment, my selflessness, my kindness. So the reward and award was definitely well earned. It was a great experience. Talent. I'll be able to share more on my pageant experience in a later episode. Also, this past Sunday, I had the privilege of joining the Shades of Pride book club as their author guest because my book, Stolen Innocence, A Survivor's Journey to Freedom, was their featured book for the month. So I did a live Q&A session with the members of the book club, and they were able to, get a little bit more down and dirty and the gritty of my story and what inspired me to write this book. So I really enjoyed that opportunity. The members, they were very just kind. Their questions were, on point. They were very receptive to, my story and just hearing my journey. So really enjoyed that as well. And so my last update is due to the overwhelmingly popular request to be spotlighted on the Women on the Rise segment of the BFF Empowerment Podcast, I will now start actually posting interviews on Saturdays as well as every other Wednesday. I have such a backlog when it comes to the interviews because of just the enormous, request to be interviewed on the podcast. So you guys will be getting an extra interview every other week, or even maybe every Saturday. I haven't quite decided yet, but I know for sure there will be an extra Women on the Rise episode starting next week, actually. So that is all I have for you guys today. All right, so now jumping into our episode. So it is October, and so there's several things celebrated in October. There's Breast Cancer Awareness Month. There's also Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And those of you who know, I am a two-time survivor of domestic violence. And so women and children and people who have experienced trauma and domestic violence and abuse of any kind is definitely something that I'm passionate about. And so those of you who haven't already checked out my previous episodes talking about my second experience with being a victim of domestic violence. It is actually a two-part episode called Runaway Bride, part one and two. So if you want to check out those episodes to hear my story about my last and final domestic violence situation, feel free to do so. And then also October is Meet the Blind Month. So although every day, all day is Meet the Blind Month, specifically October is dedicated to Meet the Blind Month. So October 15th is National White Cane Day. So for those of you who are not familiar, a white cane is something that a blind or visually impaired person uses to help identify them as having a visual impairment. Um, so I like to, I'm just the fashionista that I am. I don't normally typically use the regular white cane. I like to get pink or red, my favorite color that kind of shows off my personality, but I also do use the standard white cane as well. But since it is Meet the Blind Month, I do want to talk about a subject that is very detrimental in the blindness and visually impaired community, which is employment. Now, according to sources, all over, 70% of blind and visually impaired people are unemployed. Me personally, I feel like that number is way higher. I think it's more closer to 80 to 85%. And even with those who are blind and visually impaired who are employed, I feel like a lot of blind and visually impaired people are underemployed, meaning they may have a job, but they don't make enough to really have a normal, way of life. They're not making enough to where they can comfortably take care of themselves or live on their own. So they may have a job, but they may only be making, 7.25, 7.50 an hour. So to me, that's not a livable wage. Me myself, I've always been employed. I lost my sight when I was 15, but I got my first job when I was 17. So probably in my history of my 36 years of life, I may have been unemployed for give or take mm, maybe about, I would say, a year and a half. I'm gonna give it maybe a little bit less, but I'm just gonna say a year and a half. Out of 17 years to 36 years, 17 years old to 36 years old, I may have been unemployed for maybe a year and a half. One was by choice due to my son's health issues and things, me wanting to take a step back and focus on nursing him back to health. So me leaving my job was a sacrifice that I made as a mother that I don't regret. And then maybe 6 months or so, um, I was unemployed just due to not being able to find a job. So what I want to talk about is an experience I actually had in which a lot of us go through as a blind and visually impaired person. It doesn't matter how educated we are, how much experience we have. If we walk in there with a white cane or with sunglasses or anything that represents that we have a visual impairment that is obvious, a lot of times we're automatically discounted. Um, and people will say, "Oh no, we're equal opportunity employers. We don't discriminate, yada yada yada." They say that because they have to, and that's my personal opinion. They say that because they have to say that. But the moment you walk in there and they know you're blind, they automatically count you out. You don't even have to open your mouth and say anything. And I know that firsthand because I was discriminated from a job due to me being blind. So this is the situation and this is what happened. So I applied for a job with the state of North Carolina where I live at the Department of Revenue. I applied for the job just like I do any other job, you know. So, okay, cool, waiting, get a response back. Oh, we would like you to do an interview. Okay, great. I'm very good at interviewing. I'm very good at, this isn't my first job. So, I'm confident that I have what it takes. So I get to the job interview, and this is all virtual. Um, so I'm there, I'm on camera, I'm dressed professionally, I'm ready. So it's a panel style interview. So there's three different people interviewing me, asking different questions. So there was the person who actually was my manager I ended up reporting to. There was also someone from HR, and then the other person, I think they were part of like the recruiting program, recruiting department or something like that. But anyway, there was three people. So they threw their questions at me, and I answered them. I'm on camera, like I said. They're looking at me. I can't see them, but they see me. So, okay, interview is over. I'm feeling confident. Yep, I did my thing. This job, I got it. It's in the bag. Based on, my prior work history, my, education. Yeah, I'm good. This is mine. So, a few weeks later, get a phone call. Oh, Miss Johnson, we would like to offer you the position. This is how much it pays. Da 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 da. Are you willing to accept? Yes. Okay. Well, we want you to start on such and such date. Da da da. This is when orientation starts. So, okay, cool. This is the address. All right, cool. So I'm all excited. I'm like, oh, wow, I'm gonna be working for the state. Like, this is my first state job. I've worked, as a federal contractor. I've worked in private sector. So this is my first state job. You know how everyone says, oh, state jobs, you get the best benefits and all of that. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna get pension. I'm gonna get this and that. I'm all excited. I'm like, wow, this is different. Like the job itself I really didn't care for. But I felt like if I accepted the job, because the pay wasn't what I was looking for, it was way less than what I was used to making. But I'm like, okay, I'll start at the bottom and work my way up. That was my mindset, being the person that I am. So I'm like, okay, I'll get my foot in the door in a state, facility, a state organization, you know, and then I'll just work my way up. Because I asked them during the interview, what was the likelihood of upward mobility, things like that, managerial type position, things like that, because I'm going to school for human resources management. No, actually, at that time, I apologize. At that time, I was actually in school for business management. After this situation happened is when I ended up changing because of the situation. So, um, it was a few days after I already accepted the job. I got my um official, offer letter, all of this, looked over it. Okay, everything looks great. So I noticed during the process that they never asked about accommodations. So, I mean, for me, I assumed it was obvious that I was blind. Three different people interviewing me. They're looking in the camera. I'm there, which I have been told that in some ways, I guess I carry myself in a way that sometimes people may not know that I'm blind. But to me, I don't know. It's just me personally. I felt like it was obvious, but apparently it wasn't. So after a few days went by, and I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to start on such and such date, but they have not asked me anything about accommodations. Let me call them and find out, like, is that a different department? Like, is that going to be handled once I actually get there? Trying to figure out where and what's next. So I ended up calling back the person that called and offered me the job. And I was like, well, I'm excited to start. I said, but I noticed that you guys didn't ask anything about accommodations. And he was like, accommodations? Like, what do you mean? I said, well, I mean, you do know I'm blind, right? Like, I need, and he was just like, well, um, so when you say accommodations, like, what do you need? Like a bigger screen, or, when you say you're blind, like, do you need, like, and I'm like, no. I'm totally blind, so I have no usable vision. I use a screen reader. I use a braille display. Like, are you guys, is there like a certain department I need to call to get this ball rolling? Like, how does that work? Or is that something y'all going to do when I get there? Like, and he was just baffled. He was like stuttering and stammering all over himself. He didn't know what to say. He was like, well, let me call you back. So I'm like, okay. Like less than an hour later, I get a call back. And it's him and someone from like HR or something. And they're like, well, he said, that you said you needed accommodate. So there once again, I'm having to explain what accommodations I'm needing. I just need a screen reader and a braille display. Okay, so we don't, yeah, we'll try to see what we can, it just kind of was like they were all over the place. So I'm already not really getting a good feeling. So I'm like, okay. She was like, oh yeah, we'll talk with them and find out, what's the next step, and we'll give you a call back. 30 minutes later, I get a call back from the same hiring manager. He was like, well, unfortunately, we're going to have to rescind the offer. And I'm like, what? He was like, well, we can't accommodate you being blind, so we're going to have to take the job offer back. And I'm just sitting there like, no, I'm not going to accept this. So I was like, please explain to me why. Why are you taking the job back? I said, I have the experience. I have the education you're looking for. I would have never made it this far for you to offer me the job if I didn't meet your criteria. Now that you know I'm blind and I need accommodations, all of a sudden you have to rescind the offer? And he was like, oh, our system isn't accessible with a screen reader. I said, how do you know that? You didn't even know I was blind. So how do you know your system is not accessible with a screen reader? Oh, well, we had somebody come out in January and I said, how convenient. You find out I'm blind. It's May. But 5 months ago, you had somebody come out and check your system and you found that it wasn't okay. Who do you think you're talking to? I'm like, sir, are you sure you want to do this? And he was like, well, I'm sorry. We took the job back. Good luck in your job, and then click. He hung up on me. He literally hung up on me. He said, good luck in my job search, and he hung up. So I'm upset, and I'm like, are you serious? Like, this couldn't have just happened. Like, I done went out and bought new clothes, like, everything, getting prepared to start this new job. I'm like, this, and I'm just sitting there baffled. I'm like, this didn't just happen. So I pondered on it for a while, and I was just like, am I tripping? Like, did I really just get discriminated against because I can't see and they don't want to accommodate me? So I posted about it on Facebook, and I'm like, I just want to make sure that I'm not making more of this than what it really is. I said, and I put the whole situation out there and how I got the job offer, but once they found out I was blind and needed accommodations, all of a sudden the job was rescinded. And then so everybody was like, oh no, that's discrimination. They can't do that. Like, you need to report them, this, and that. And I'm just like, I just wanted to be sure that I wasn't, reading more into it or jumping to the gun. Because, yeah, people scream discrimination all day, every day. and it not really be founded. So I wanted to make sure that I was actually in the right for feeling the way that I did. And, everybody was like, yeah, that's blatant discrimination because outside of you being blind, you qualified for the job. They would have never offered you it in the first place if you didn't. So some people reached out to me and they were like, this is the organization you need to call. You need to call, North Carolina Disability um Disability Rights of North Carolina. That's what it was called. So I reached out to them and, I let them know what the situation was. I was like, this is this and that, and they actually emailed me the rescind letter saying that due to them not being able to accommodate me, they had to take the job back. So I had it in writing. That was why they were taking the job back from me. So I sent that, I ended up getting a lawyer through the Disability Rights of North Carolina. So I actually filed an EEOC claim against them. And so I went through that process. My claim was approved, and we proceeded to go after them. And this is the North Carolina Department of Revenue. So we ended up in a mediation with them because they didn't want it to go to a lawsuit because they knew they were in the wrong. So the agreement was that they would reinstate my job offer and then that they would have to back pay me the money that I was supposed to have been being paid while I was supposed to be employed, and then they were supposed to accommodate me. Okay, all well. I had a feeling though it wasn't going to go as smoothly as that. I had a feeling that there was going to be some animosity, even though according to the law they couldn't, you know, um retaliate against me for filing a claim against them and pursuing legal course against them. But I knew they were going to have their sneaky ways of retaliating against me so that it wouldn't seem obvious that they were retaliating. So they ended up reinstating me. So I sat at home for 8 months waiting for these accommodations. I called them weekly, never had a report. There were so many people involved in this, and it went nowhere. I would call them and call them and call them, and I got the same old, oh, we're working on it. Oh, we called our IT department. We did this. We're doing this. We're doing that. We're on it. Yeah. It just went on and on and on. So my son, who was in pre-K at the time, he was on spring break. So I decided, we were going to go on vacation. So we were on vacation. Why the job calls me and they're like, oh, we need you to come in. We got something we want you to test. This, and that. And I'm like, well, I'm not in town. They were like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm on vacation. Well, we need you to call us when you get back. I'm like, okay. I mean, look, it's taking y'all 8 months to get me, accommodated. So my life goes on. I can't sit here and wait for you and think that, okay, I'm supposed to just sit here and wait by the phone. When I call you guys, you're never ready. So now the one time that you call me and I'm not available, now you want to have an attitude? So got back from vacation with my son, got a phone call. Oh, as of Monday, we need you to start reporting to the office. I said, why? Have y'all figured out my accommodations yet? Oh, we're still working on it, but from now on, we need you to report to the office. I'm like, okay. So basically, because I wasn't available when they wanted me to be available, now all of a sudden I have to go to an office where you still have not accommodated me yet. You have no intentions on accommodating me. So, of course, start going to the office. And guess what? There's nothing there for me to do. So I'm just sitting there. I'm just a presence in an office just because they don't want me to have the freedom to live my life whenever I want to because you're not ready for me to come to work. So literally, I sat there every day doing nothing. I came in every day doing nothing. I sat in on the training, but I couldn't even participate in because it wasn't accessible for me. They just wanted me to be there and be available. They just didn't want me to be able to just go willy-nilly and live my life. And unfortunately, there was nothing I could do about it. Under the terms of the mediation agreement, they had to reinstate me. They reinstated me, but they never had any intentions on actually accommodating me. So every day I sat there, every day. And not only did I just sit there, they literally had me sitting in the back of the room by myself. All the other employees was up front. They could talk, they could laugh, they could joke around, they could go eat lunch together. I was literally in the back of the room by myself, isolated from everybody else. Every day. So you can imagine how I felt. Nobody speaking to me, nobody talking to me. All they would ask me is why I wasn't participating. I said, well, you already know that I can't. It's not accessible. I had to sit in on meetings, I had to sit in on trainings, I had to do all as if I'm an equal employee, but I'm not. You're purposely isolating me from everyone else so that I'm sitting by myself day in and day out. Everybody else is getting to interact with each other and the camaraderie, but I'm by myself. Nobody's speaking to me. So it started really messing with me mentally. Like I was depressed. I hated going to work every day. Like I hated it. And then not only that, but it was a financial hardship for me because I'm already making less than what I was used to making at my previous job. Now I gotta sit here and pay for paratransit to go back and forth every day to a job where I'm not even doing anything. I'm just sitting there all day, just sitting, listening to everyone else train for their new job, listening to everyone else get to engage and interact with each other. And I'm just left by myself. So eventually it really started getting to me to the point where I started looking for another job. And I knew all along that's what they really wanted. They didn't want me there. They wanted to push me into a situation where I was so uncomfortable that I would just leave on my own. And they got exactly what they wanted. Because while I was at this job, I was actually interviewing and putting in applications for other jobs. I'm like, I can't do this. First of all, the pay sucks. You think I'm just going to sit here and just endure the treatment just because I want a job? No. So I actually started applying for jobs. I started interviewing for jobs to the point where I just I developed a I don't care attitude. I literally interviewed for my current job while I was at this job. So I did my interviews during my lunch break. I would go outside on my lunch break and do my interviews for my current job that I have now. That's how much I really just didn't care anymore. And even during the interview process, the recruiter was asking me, was I at work? And I said, yeah, I'm outside. It's like at my current job, I'm outside. And he just kind of like chuckled. And I'm just like, yeah, I can't deal with this treatment anymore. So I left North Carolina Department of Revenue. On May 31st was my last day. So basically what I did, I had, over the course of the 8 months I was employed there, like I earned my leave, like my vacation time and PTO and all of that. So literally what I did is I saved all that time and took it all at that one time. So I ended up leaving like I think it was like mid-May. So May 31st was officially my last day at that job. I started my new job that following Monday, June 3rd. I wasn't playing with them. I'm like, because I know what I'm capable of. I know what my skills are. I know what my abilities are. I know what my education is. I haven't just sat around twiddling my thumbs for the past 20 or so years. I've always worked. I've always held down a job. So I'm not going to let someone sit here and make me feel like I'm less than or I'm nobody because I'm blind. And you being as ignorant as you are and you're a state organization to treat me like this. I deserve better and I'm going to find somewhere else. And so I gave them what they wanted. But it was also gave me my peace of mind because I didn't have to deal with that mental stress. That just feeling like I was nobody, that I was invisible. And that's exactly how I felt. And so that actually encouraged my poem, Modern Day Rosa Parks. I wrote that poem because it expressed exactly how I was feeling. So I'm gonna take a moment and recite that for you guys, and I hope you guys enjoy.
You're different, and that makes us uncomfortable. We're not used to your kind. We place you in the back of the room because out of sight is out of mind. Social isolation makes me want to run somewhere and hide. Because that's the only way I know how to deal with this pain I feel inside. It's not the color of my skin that bothers everyone else this time. The fact that I have a disability is my perceived societal crime. A genuine interest and acceptance of who I am is forever prolonging my desires and yearning for equality and the feeling of belonging. I pray to God every day and ask the question why. Why can't people see me for who I am and not the lack of vision in my eyes? No matter how much education, experience, or life skills I obtain, exclusion and isolation is still my reward to gain. The only way to become visible and stand out is to receive notoriety. Overachieving is the only way to be accepted in our society. To be seen as humans and people with feelings always requires a fight. Legal actions and discrimination lawsuits is the only way we can preserve our rights. The equal opportunity statement is such a joke, it's not really true. People only say it because legally it's something they have to do. Selective equal opportunity and diversity is the name of the game. No matter how harsh your treatment of me, I will never feel shame. I am proud of the person that I am and all that I have achieved. I've made it as far as I have all on my own, no sympathy received. So you can try to put me as far back in the room as humanly possible, but you can't break me or silence me. My voice is too audible. You're different, and that makes us uncomfortable. We're not used to your kind. We've placed you in the back of the room because out of sight is out of mind. How do you feel being a real modern-day Rosa Parks? Although I'm cloaked in darkness, the light that shines within me still sparks.
All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed listening to my poem, Modern Day Rosa Parks. Being sat in the back of that room like that by myself, that's exactly how I felt. Like I was Rosa Parks. Only difference was instead of being black, I was disabled. The only blind person working in this organization. The only blind person ever working in this organization. So they didn't know what to do with me. So they put me in the back of the room by myself, out of sight, out of mind. And that was not right. And it finally just got built up so much that I was like, I'm not going to stand by and be treated like this. Yes, I may be giving y'all the easy way out by me leaving instead because they knew they couldn't fire me. So they made it just uncomfortable enough to where I would say enough is enough and leave. And that's exactly what I did. And I do still to this day. And I even told them I felt like it was retaliation, even though they tried to say it wasn't. And I made sure I got everything in writing with them. You know, they tried to say, oh, no, it's not retaliation. We're doing our best. We're trying to. No, you're not. No, you're not. And I knew they weren't. And so I'm pretty sure they were happy to be rid of me when I decided to leave. Because even the guy that I was reporting under, who was the one that took the job away from me, was like, oh, it was a pleasure working with you. Really? Who are you talking to? It was not no pleasure you working with me. You didn't even want me here. So that was my first experience dealing with blatant discrimination when it comes to being employed. And I'm sure there are lots and lots of other, blind and visually impaired people who are well qualified for jobs, but just off the strength and the fact that they're blind, they're being overlooked. And it's gotten to the point where people are trying to decide whether or not they should reveal that they have a visual impairment, or should they wait until after they've been hired, which doesn't protect you. And I've never been the type to hide the fact that I'm blind because I'm not ashamed of who I am, and I don't want someone, whether it's a job, a partner, or anybody else, to be ashamed of the fact that I'm blind. So I've never hidden the fact that I was blind. I just felt like I thought it was obvious, but apparently not. And so, yeah, a lot of people don't like to reveal that they're blind or they're visually impaired because they are afraid that that's going to automatically disqualify them. And it does. The equal opportunity, that's a joke. It's a joke. They say it because legally they have to. I call it selective equal opportunity employment. So as long as you're not blind, yes, they'll hire you. Blindness is considered the lowest of the lowest disabilities on the totem pole. So they would much rather hire anybody else who's disabled than hire someone who's blind. And I don't think that's right. And that just shows how society views somebody with a visual disability. Like, they think we shouldn't even live. Why should we want to work? Like, we shouldn't even want to even be alive, let alone actually have employment and work and be successful, productive members of society. There are so many people out here who have the skills, who have the experience, who have the capability to do lots of different jobs, but they're never given that opportunity because they're blind. And like, something needs to be done about that. Like, but they're not going to. People are going to keep sliding it under the rug, brushing it away. Oh no, that's just your personal experience. No, we don't feel like that. We know what you guys are capable of. They try to pacify us with, oh no, we don't think like that. But majority of society thinks like that. They showcase that every day. They display how they see blind and visually impaired people every day. We are not supposed to want a quality of life. We are not supposed to want to be able to support our children and to be able to purchase homes and do the thing. We're not supposed to want to do that. We're supposed to be laying around, being taken care of, taking advantage of benefits and all. Yeah, they don't see us as capable, and we shouldn't want any type of quality of life outside of living off of a check because we can't see. Being blind just negates you from even wanting to have some kind of quality of life. You should just be happy you're alive. And I don't subscribe to that philosophy. I'm entitled to anything else that anybody else out here is. I work just as hard as anybody else out here. I don't sit around waiting for someone to feel sorry for me. I don't, look out for handouts. I go out here and I work. I choose to do that. So the least thing that I can get is an opportunity to show and prove what I'm capable of, not you just automatically just counting me out off the strength that my eyes don't work or they don't work properly or I can't look straight ahead. I can't, give you eye contact and all of this other foolishness they, try to use as reasons why they don't give blind people jobs. And it's crazy. Like I just don't understand, and it's never going to change. No matter we have so many organizations out here, NFB, ACB, uh, Foundation Fighting Blindness, and all these different organizations. Nothing seems to help when it comes to employing blind people. The most they want to do is, oh, you can work at a lighthouse for the blind or industries of the blind or industries for the blind or those are the only jobs they want to be willing to give somebody that's blind. We want to work in mainstream employment. Give us the opportunities. People don't go to college to get these degrees just to sit here and just have them decorate the wall. There's lots of blind people that invested in their education and they have nothing to show for it because no one will give them that opportunity. And it's sad. Like it really, really irks my soul because I'm one of those people that go out here every day and work hard. I don't sit around waiting for opportunities to come to me. I go out here and I make my own opportunities. And the doors get slammed in your face just because you can't see. And I'm sorry, guys. I know I'm speaking very passionate, but this is something I'm very passionate about. This is something that really upsets me that this still is going on in 2025. When is society going to catch up to technology, to just a different mindset, to being open-minded, to letting someone prove what they're capable of, not you telling them what they're capable of? And that's what's going to continue to hold us back until people start to just give that opportunity. When COVID hit and people didn't want to work, all of a sudden Amazon and FedEx want to hire blind people now. But prior to COVID, oh no, we weren't worthy enough to grace their facilities. But because nobody else wanted to work, now all of a sudden blind people are good enough to work at Amazon and FedEx and UPS and all these other shipping places. These are the same blind people that were here before COVID. What's changed now? Wow, when perfectly able-bodied people don't want to work, now, oh, you want to give the quote-unquote less fortunate a chance and an opportunity to work now to fulfill your obligations. I don't like it. Like it's great, yes. You can work at Amazon or FedEx, but yeah, that's basically only because nobody else wanted to do it. That was the only reason why that opportunity was even put out there, is because people who could see didn't want it. They wanted to sit at home and collect these government checks when COVID was going on. That was the only reason why they opened up those opportunities for blind people to work at these warehouses. It wasn't because, oh, genuinely they thought, you know what? Here's a group of people that may actually be dedicated workers and actually take pride in their job. No, 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 no. We're blind people were an afterthought. Well, we can't get people who can see the work. You know what? Let's go out into the disability community and just see if we can find somebody who actually wants to work. Like this has to stop. Like I don't understand. And I don't know what it takes. I'm only one person. So I can't stop what's continuing to happen. But what I can do is state my opinion, voice my thoughts on it, and hopefully the right person hears it. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode today. If you've ever been in a situation where you were discriminated against from a job, definitely feel free to send me a message. You can also comment on the Facebook page for the BFF Empowerment Podcast. I definitely want to have a discussion about this just to hear other people's stories and experiences on this topic because it's a topic that is not going to go anywhere. It's not going to change anytime soon, and that's just unfortunate. So, guys, don't forget to follow the podcast on all major podcasting platforms. If you would like to be featured as a Women on the Rise guest on the BFF Empowerment Podcast, feel free to send an interest email to bffempowerment@gmail.com. Don't forget to visit the website at bffempowermentpodcast.com to see all the latest episodes. Definitely follow us on all major social media platforms that we're available on. That's Threads, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. And thank you so much for listening, guys. See you next time.